This is the Royal Enfield that I took a run on earlier after doing some work on it to try and stop the breather spitting out loads of oil into the airbox, and finally managed to sort the problem out, although along the way I took the cylinder head off suspecting an internal blow on a head gasket or base gasket. They appeared to be okay. All three gaps in the piston rings were lined up, so that wasn't looking too good. So I staggered the gaps of the piston rings. The rings themselves gapped okay in the bore, they weren't worn, so I just staggered the gaps, deglazed the bore, decoked the piston and head, ground the valves in, put it all back together with a new head gasket, and tried it again, and unfortunately it was still blowing all sorts of muck and oil out the breather pipe and into the airbox. So I had another look at it and decided I'd get the timing cover off and have a look and see what was going on in there. And basically what I did is I decided that I would eliminate all the possible suspects and see what would happen. First of all, the timing cover gasket, the oil hole for the scavenge side was almost half blocking the hole in the crankcase itself. So I got a new timing cover gasket and stuck it on carefully with all the holes perfectly lined up. Also, this oil seal that you get on the Indian engines sits behind the timing pinion on the crankshaft and seals the timing chest from the crankcase. It didn't appear to be badly worn or anything, but I thought, well, I'll put a new one in and that'll eliminate that. But the favourite was this one here, and this is the what's called the oil pump worm nut. Is the nut that holds the timing pinion fast on a crank, and it also drives the oil pumps. And a lot of them, like this one, have what's called a bonded in rubber seal, except this one wasn't bonded in. It's quite a loose fit in there, and I think if you look how wobbly that is, and bear in mind that when a quill bolt screws in all the way and the timing cover's on all the way against it, there'll be a gap of about that much to where my fingernail is between the end of the quill bolt, apart from the tube that fits through. This could have been, looking at the mark on it, you can see there's a bit of a step worn on it. I think it was probably running about a little more than that far in. Very, very loose. Look at that play there. And I reckon that there's been loads and loads of oil pouring in, not just the oil that's been pumped into the big end, but all the oil in the timing chest has been cascading into the engine and overwhelming the crankcase. Plus, the crankcase has been breathing through its normal route and back through here as well and blowing into the timing chest. And the pipe that's supposed to be the rundown pipe from the catch can back to the back of the timing chest has just been overwhelmed with oil in the catch can and pressure in here, and caused it all to head this way through the catch can and into the airbox and all over the back end. And one thing's for certain, the top end overhaul will freshen the engine up a bit, but that didn't cure the problem. But these three items here together sorted it out. And out of three, as I say, I think this one here was the prime suspect. And it's not an obvious one, but when you get an Enfield bullet blowing lots of oil out the breather and everything seems to be in order, it might just be worth having a look at this and see whether this has come unstuck, or if you've got the cork one or the detachable rubber one, whether it's worn, because I think that is probably the cause, or was probably the cause of the problems in this case anyway. So worth bearing in mind, I would say.